The famous English poet William Wordsworth wrote the poem Lines Written in Early Spring. This piece was first published in the collection Lyrical Ballads in 1798. It was then published again, crediting Wordsworth as the poet in the second edition of Lyrical Ballads. William Wordsworth was an English romantic poet who, with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, helped to launch the Romantic age in English literature with their joint publication Lyrical Ballads in 1798. He is remembered as a poet concerned with the human relationship to nature and a fierce advocate of using the vocabulary and speech patterns of common people in poetry. Lines Written in Early Spring is English romantic poet William Wordsworth's meditation on the harmony of nature and on humanity's failure to follow nature's peaceful example. Lines Written in Early Spring. I heard 1,000 blended notes, while in a grove I sat reclined, in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts in that green bower, the periwinkle trailed its wreaths, and it's my fate that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The birds around me hopped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made, it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man? The poem begins with a lovely description of something melodious, something the reader can imagine the speaker enjoys. The speaker here reclines in a lovely grove on a spring morning. The joy he perceives in the natural world and his belief that his own soul is somehow intimately connected to that joy leads him to mourn what man has made of man. In other words, the cruelty, selfishness and fighting that characterize humanity. These two lines are likely linked to memories and appreciation of the past, a longing for what was. He is enjoying the nature surrounding him, noting how it all comes together beautifully. However, while basking in this setting, he also feels his sadness overcome him. The reason for the low feelings is revealed as the poem unfolds. Even as he does this, he takes in the beautiful scene that surrounds him. The speaker here appreciates the nature for her godlike abilities of linking a human soul to her. He also feels grief while thinking about how cruelly man has separated himself from Mother Nature. The speaker is highly appreciative of the nature's beauty. The reader can see how different flowers and trees come together in a shaded, peaceful place. The speaker believes that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The speaker is watching the birds presumably play. The birds hopping around creates an air of excitement and goes on to state that he cannot be sure what they are thinking. Every movement of the birds seems energetic and filled with joy. The breeze flowing is sweet and light. The twigs are spreading out as if to catch the sweet air, and all the speaker can do is gather pleasure in their existence. The speaker is now connecting nature and heaven. It's a holy spiritual belief. He considers nature to be holy and thus deserving of the utmost respect. The speaker questions that if this is heaven and this is the holy plan of nature, then what has man made of man? That is himself and his kind, by separating from such joy. The poet's mind is caught between. His mood fluctuates between nature and the human world. Nature is all joy, all pleasure. The human world is full of sorrows. Man is a part of nature. He ought to be having a part of nature's holy plan. The poet laments how man by severing himself from nature's holy plan, has brought about miseries and disaster upon himself. The poem ends with the speaker's lament. Though he has described nature beautifully throughout the poem, it served mainly to highlight what man is destroying. It reiterates the interconnectedness of mankind in nature, demonstrating what people do has a huge effect on the natural world. The major theme of this poem is nature in all senses of the word. Wordsworth's themes in lines written in early spring are nature, spirituality, and peace. Throughout this poem, the poet, who is very likely the speaker, observes the natural world around him. He discusses how impactful the images of nature are on his state of mind. He was in a sweet mood, but this pleasant mood leads him to deeper thoughts, those associated with the nature of humankind and what has become of the human soul and spirit. He mourns over what man has done to man. The poem also underlines the natural connection between everything on earth, both the tangible and the intangible. Nature is not an entity man can see or touch in and of itself. The poem presents nature as the spirit that moves every living thing. Nature unites all the creatures of the landscape in a shared sense of joy, making them part of one big delighted entity. Nature, in the poet's view, provides an example of interconnected, joyful harmony, a peaceful balance that every living thing takes part in. If human beings could just follow nature's example, they too could share in that harmony. However, through the theme of connection, we do see and touch nature in all we consume, destroy, make, and love.